with the power of AI, you can actually make them agentic. These pockets of agency, as we call them, through the release of Agent Builder and our launch of agentic automation, can be turned into agents, leaving the only human process where the value is, that eligibility determination. But as Daniel was mentioning earlier, all of these different automations and even agents in the human, they're all kind of sitting in isolated silos. They're not orchestrated end to end. So with the launch of UiPath Maestro, we will also be able to orchestrate this process end to end. Are you ready to get out of PowerPoint and see the actual product? Yeah?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it, yeah.
Let's go into the actual product. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm now the developer. This is the same exact flow implemented in UiPath Maestro. You'll see that it looks very similar to what I showed you before on PowerPoint. If we look at each of these boxes, it looks very much like a traditional BPM flow. Now, what was the problem with traditional BPM? You could draw, but you couldn't really do all of these things. You still needed other tools, other products, other capabilities, other third-party things in order to do UI automation, API automation, agents, etc. With UiPath, every single one of these boxes, not only are we drawing it and orchestrating it all, we also can implement every single one of these boxes as something that actually runs. If we look at this flow itself, there's actually 4 agents we've interspersed through this. One here, one here, one here, and one here. And some of these agents might be simple agents that we can do something called low-code agents with. These are for more business outcome decisions, something that doesn't require a lot of technical work, but is more of a business outcome, such as an eligibility determination. That's where UiPath low-code agents really come into play. However, many of you developers out there playing with agentic technology knows that there's also more complex agents that you might need out there with professional code. These are for more complex mechanics of gathering context and reasoning, all these technical terms that, frankly, I don't even really understand. You need a lot of power and flexibility there, and you need validation of all these variable requirements. I'm not a Python dev. You need basically Python. The power of UiPath, though, is whether you want low-code agents or pro-code agents, we can orchestrate both through UiPath. And this way, we can bring the appropriate tool for the appropriate job. The rest of these boxes in this Maestro flow can do anything, from processing documents with our new intelligent document extraction capabilities that have been recently enhanced with the abilities to extract from unstructured complex documents, as well as charts and forms that you'll see in a second. There's UI automation in case you need to have legacy systems. There's our more modern API workflows in case you want to bridge legacy systems to more modern systems. All of that is possible to be orchestrated through Maestro.
Thank you, Farhan. That's awesome. So let's look at some key takeaways from this. Maestro becomes the single place to design, monitor, and run these complex business processes. And it knows how to seamlessly orchestrate agents, robots, and people, all at scale. So I think now's a good time to maybe start getting into the details of how some of those agents were built. So for example, Farhan, you mentioned that an agent gave the loan officer an eligibility recommendation. How did you build that?
Yeah, absolutely. And later on in this stream, we'll show you a lot more of the capabilities of Maestro, but let's show you that eligibility determination. Earlier, you saw my screen. It was all cluttered. There was files everywhere. Imagine if that loan eligibility officer had something as simple as this. Oops. Give me 1 second to refresh this task. Thank you. So imagine if they had a screen like this, and the agent provided the overall risk score of this applicant. The agent provided a recommendation of what the applicant, of the loan officer should do. The agent went and evaluated credit history, employment history, liquid assets availability. All of these validations were done by the agent without human instruction. And all of this exposed for the loan officer, including the documents, so we can actually go through and see what our document processing actually evaluated out of the asset allocation, just for the loan officer to finally approve or reject. That agent piece, getting the risk score, getting the recommendation, doing all this checks, how do we actually build that? Well, with a low-code agent, we'll be able to build something using autopilot. What you see here is a screen of what you get when you actually want to build an agent for the first time. And I already put the prompt in here, but the prompt is very simple. It simply says create an agent that is able to review risk calculations and extracted fields in order to make a loan eligibility determination or recommendation. use any tools and context gradient as possible. I'm going to hit generate this agent. And what you'll see here is it says autopilot. Autopilot was a capability we launched last year in order to help developers, testers, and everyone engage in our automations in a more conversational way. This is the capability that allows autopilot to help a developer actually build an agent. As you're looking for autopilot to run, you see it's starting to come out and make suggestions. The first thing it's suggesting for me is, hey, we need to put some arguments, something the agent can use and something the agent can output. As I review these suggestions, you see that autopilot is automatically putting the fields where they need to be and allows me to accept it. Let's take a look at the system prompt. I can accept the system prompt and the user prompt. Now, you might be wondering what these prompts are. These prompts are instructions for the agent to do. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an automation developer. I'm not a prompt engineer out there for all these new capabilities for LLMs. So having autopilot automatically help me suggest the prompt, make sure that the prompt is actually built in a much better way than I could do by myself. The next thing I want to show you is tools. Here, it's suggesting that I use this tool. What autopilot is able to do is look through the whole gambit of tools within my UiPath environment to know what sort of automations already exist there. And autopilot is automatically able to bring in a tool into this agent if it sees fit. As you see here, it's saying that, hey, we already have an automation built for the risk calculation. Let's go ahead and bring that in here. The next thing is context. When I see the suggestions, it says loan policies. Context is very important for your agents. And what context means is that is your context. That is your special information that your agent needs to use in order to make a determination for something like this. So for instance, it discovered that we already have our loan policies established in our system. It's going to pull that automatically in so that the agent can use it. And then finally, at the bottom of this section, escalations. As Daniel mentioned earlier, we really want reliable agents. When an agent doesn't really know what to do, we don't want it to just go and guess. We want it to actually escalate to a human.
That's great, Farhan. But we know that from our own experience and partners' experience, customer experience, building reliable agents, it's actually harder than you showed right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned, I'm a good developer, but I'm not a professional developer. I've never really had to think about infrastructure governance and all the stuff behind the scenes. One of the nice things about UiPath is it provides all of these things behind the scenes for me. But even in the agent development capabilities itself, we actually have tools as well. Let me flip to a completed version of this agent. And you see every single field has been filled out and a bit more fleshed out. You might be asking, whoa, Farhan, you just put a fast one on us, huh? You just switched to a new agent. How did you do that, right? I want to show you a capability called the health score. What the health score is in our agent builder is a capability that allows us to actually fine-tune the agent using AI. I can click into the prompts, and I can get suggestions for how the prompt can be improved for clarity, for completeness, for consistency, for chain of thought. And you see here it says demos poor. What it's telling me now is I can further improve this agent by adding more examples directly into the prompt. And if I see suggestions here, I'll be able to see the suggestions on how to do that. The next thing I want to show you is how do we make sure that the agent runs reliably? Agents are non-deterministic by default, right? It just kind of guesses what it does in the next step. It doesn't really always know. It's not deterministic like robots. That's where the power of evaluations come in. What evaluations are essentially test sets where we give it some constraints and sees what the agent result is. We know what we expect the result is. Let's see what the agent gives. And if we run enough of these over time, we'll be able to make the agent more and more reliable. Let's take a look at an evaluation set. What this means is I gave this agent 4 separate different conditions in order to make its determination. And I gave it what our expected result is. Let's see what the evaluator said. This one is quite low, in 30%. What that actually tells me is that what we expected the eligibility determination, the risk score to be, was 40. But the agent gave us 70. That means the agent was a little less restrictive than we were. That gives me an opportunity to say, hey, maybe I need to make this agent a bit more constrained, a bit more, inspect a bit more. But it also tells me a lot more of the difference in some of the reasoning about why the 70 versus the 40. Also in this capability, we can see every single run. As Daniel was mentioning earlier, every single run of these agents have direct auditability and traceability. So I can see every single thing the agent did in this process, from making LLM calls to running tools to get things such as employment history, getting credit history. And you can see all the results of everything here. So all that transparency is there. And that's how we get a bit more reliable.
Yep. So that was cool. Thank you, Farhan. You're right. That actually was super easy. And I think both the low-code development of agents as well as the low-code evaluations for these agents is going to be a game changer, because I think it's going to make everybody an agent developer, right? So what do you all think? You all agree? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking. I think we are investing quite a bit in these evaluation sets. We are big believers that it's going to be one of the key technology to unlock reliability of agents. Because agents are non-deterministic. You cannot basically go and inspect every path in the code. So the evaluation tests and maybe even creating synthetic evaluation tests will be very important.
Absolutely. And actually, if you think even further about this, I think Farhan was alluding to this earlier, that not all processes can be handled with these low-code agents. Some will require professionally coded agents from a data science team, an engineering team, et cetera. So I'm actually really thrilled today to announce that we are launching support for coded agents inside UiPath. This is something that a lot of our customers have been asking for. And today we're actually announcing a partnership with LangChain, who are one of the leading open source agent frameworks, right? Have you heard of LangChain? So, yeah, so together with them, we're doing a few things. We're making it much easier to build, monitor, and deploy these agents written in Python and TypeScript. We're delivering native integration with Langsmith, which is their observability platform. We're also doing a collaboration on the agent protocol for cross-platform agent interoperability. And then we're also shipping the ability to run these LangGraph agents natively inside the UiPath infrastructure. What do you think about that, Daniel?
Well, I'm a developer myself. I'm very excited to offer, our professional developers the ability to go even a further distance than with low code. And we are doing, actually, for our entire platform, one of our core initiatives is to support more and more pro devs in our platform. And in particularly, this collaboration with LangChain is great. I have all the admiration for them. I am following them like on Twitter for the last 2 years. I think we learn a lot. And this is also a testament of our platform, our capability to securely take a Python agent and run it in the context of our governance and security, connecting it with our robots. It's a testament for our overall architecture.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is maybe now a great time to take a deeper look at one of these coded agents. So here on screen, you can see that this is an agent that's written in Python. So we're using Cursor actually to develop it. And all we had to do is add a reference to the UiPath LangChain package that's available now on PyPy. And then once you do that, you can just define your LangGraph agent in Python, just like you normally would. You have access to all the capabilities of LangGraph. And that's it. From here, you can simply use the UiPath CLI to just publish this agent to the UiPath infrastructure. And once it's published in our infrastructure, it operates just like any other one of our agents. It's governed the same way. It has the same audit trails, logging, the same role-based access control, et cetera. So we'll actually be at LangChain Interrupt in a couple of weeks. I hope to see a lot of people there, if everybody's going to be there. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, this is extremely powerful. And look, we are very excited of this partnership. And we are going to support some other open source frameworks. Yep. We are going to support also TypeScript as a framework. Yep. And coded agents are available in UiPath community preview starting today. So guys, I am very curious what you can come up with, combining the power of Maestro with coded agents.
Yep, it's going to be wonderful to see. Thank you. And this is actually just the beginning. We're working closely with a lot of key partners as we continue to lead in this journey of agentic automation. So let's start, for example, with Microsoft. We're working with them on combining Azure, Microsoft 365, and Copilot with UiPath agents. So there's a great collaboration with them. Also, EY. We're working with them to orchestrate agents across complex enterprise systems with Maestro. And then also Accenture. And with them, we're working on moving a lot of global enterprises to intelligent end-to-end agentic processes. So all these partnerships show that the ecosystem is really aligning behind what we're doing here, and we're just getting started, right? Okay, and we've always been an open platform, and we're continuing down that journey. So we will be supporting the Model Context Protocol. We'll also be supporting LangGraph's agent protocol, as well as Google's A2A protocol that was recently announced. And all of these help us be fully interoperable with all the agents that people are building and shipping in the ecosystem. And finally, last but not least, we are also partnering with Crew AI for the ability to orchestrate their multi-agent crews for very complex agentic workflows. It's going to be really cool. Okay.
Well, industry is moving fast, and look, we are cooking a lot more things that we showed you today, and that was supposed to be our one more thing.
Yes.
But actually, it's more than one thing. So I think we are having like 3 more things to go.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's get into some of those 3 more things.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to start with is models. So I think for those following the industry, you know that there's almost a Cambrian explosion of models out there. And latest models like O4 Mini and others like DeepSeek, they keep coming out. So we will be supporting all of them as they come out. And we're also working on enabling planning for more complex processes. I think maybe there's a challenge with the video. Let me just pause there. I think I got ahead of the video a little bit. Can we hit play on this, please? OK. So, but that's fine. Basically, it's all the most recent models that you can imagine. DeepSeek, the Qwen 3 models just came out, I believe, yesterday. We can support all of them in our infrastructure, and we'll be just adding them as they come out. And this toggle down there, which is currently in preview, is support for planning, so-called plan and execute agents, where agents actually plan their trajectory in advance so that they can do way more complicated things. So that was the first of the one more things. But next, I think let's get into something else, which is for the more advanced developers out there who build automations today, you might be wondering, hey, wait a second, what if these agents actually change systems of record? What if they like delete something or make a major modification? For example, this agent on screen is a loan approval agent. So it's actually using a robot to process approval for a loan. Clearly, when you're evaluating this agent or when you're testing it, you don't want to actually approve a loan, right? So what we're doing, if you go next here, is we are shipping the ability to run these agents under simulation. This is super cool. We actually use a different agent, which is the supervisor agent, which is simulating the environment this agent is running in. So this particular agent thinks it's running for real, and it thinks it's actually making real tool calls, when in reality it's not. And the supervisor agent is essentially faking the responses.
I think this is really cool. So when I showed you the evaluation sets earlier, every single one of those evaluations actually are running robots behind the scenes to do the evaluation. That's a lot of compute power. You don't actually want every single robot to run every single test. You really only want to test the agent. You're telling me with this capability, even the robots don't have to run, we can simulate that, so we only test the agent? That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. The robots, the places where humans interact with these agents, it can all be simulated. And you can even simulate failure conditions. So let's get into that, right? Because what you just saw was a single simulated run. Now what we're going to get into is, what if you actually want to simulate a lot of different cases, including failure cases? So here I'm going to go to eval sets, and I'm going to generate a new simulation set. And what this does is this also uses another agent to generate a lot of those test cases, including some adversarial examples. So here, let's think about this, right? For this loan approval agent, we want to test some failure cases related to bad credit history and see how it works. So let's just click Generate Evals. And it's looking at the description of this agent. It's looking at what it does, and it's going to think of some good examples to test this agent under simulation once again. Exactly, right? So
I think this is really
good examples, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like earlier when I showed you guys the evaluations, I had to input every single one of them into the system. That's why I only had 4 of them. It was taking me a lot of time. You're telling me I could have just used this to simulate all of them, to create all of them for me?
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that would save me a lot of time.
Yeah, it will save you a lot of time. And also, if you want to fault inject and you want to test how the agent works, if one of the tools it calls fails or behaves anomalously, you can actually do that. And once this simulated evaluation set is actually created, you can run the agent under simulation for all of them. And as you can see, it's scoring pretty well. In places where it's not scoring well, you can actually dig through it and see what the simulation actually did that caused it to fail. In this case, I believe it's correctly denying this loan because this person has some adverse markers in their credit history, let's just say.
Very cool.
OK, so let's keep going. And next, I think the thing I want to talk about is computer use agents. So for people who've been monitoring the industry, you've noticed that there's a lot of talk about computer use. These are almost like self-driving for your computer. It's like AI that uses the mouse and keyboard. And here we have a very simple demo of a UI agent that's autonomously setting up a meeting. And we will have these very soon in UiPath as well. So already our developers can use them.
Wait a minute. So that previous studio screen, as a developer, I used to have to go drag and drop every single activity in there that says click here, type here, click here. What I saw you do is just put in schedule a meeting for me at 9:30, and all of this stuff is done by an agent, even the UI automations with reliability?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the agent can actually look at the screen, and it knows where to click. In this case, it knows where to select various drop-downs to set the time, because it's reading the screen. And it can set the title, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it super, super easy to write these UI automations.
Yeah, and what's important, we are combining our UI automation for navigation between screens, which is very reliable. And we can run this prompt-based automation for the portions where it's very difficult to express in rules. When the screens change a lot, where there are a lot of rules, you can run this. And we can run this unattended. And so I think we are the first company that launched, a computer usage in an unattended mode in a combination with UI automation.
Yeah.
Because we've done a lot of tests with the best of the industries, and it's still very clunky in attended mode, and it's very slow. And we thought the best usage will be for unattended robots to save developers, time and maybe increasing reliability of some very specific use cases.
Absolutely.
You know what I love about this? It's the flexibility of AI plus the reliability of our traditional UI automation capabilities. Unlike others, we've had these capabilities in UI for 10, if not 20 years. And that reliability plus the flexibility of AI, that's a powerful combination.
Yeah, and let's not forget that these UI agents, as we're calling them, are running in UiPath Infra, so they can still be governed and controlled just like the rest of our agents. So the UiPath Enterprise promise applies here as well. OK, and I think, Daniel, you were talking about changing screens. So there's one more thing. We have not forgotten about our robots. So here's an example of what we call the healing agent. So what you'll see here is a notification that I'm getting that one of my standard automations, my robotic automations, actually failed, but it was automatically recovered by the healing agent. And I can actually click into it and see what happened. And in this case, I can even see a video of what the UI automation was trying to do. And it looks like there was an unexpected pop-up that came up on screen. So the healing agent was smart enough, using a technique similar to the computer use, to actually dismiss this pop-up so that my robotic automation could continue and it did not fail.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, as an RPA developer, one of my biggest issues back in the day was when my automation failed, I have to go back and figure out why it failed. A lot of the times it's because of that new little consent to cookie button, right?
Yeah.
That annoying pop-up. You're telling me with Healing Agent, that would have just moved past it and done it for me automatically?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Healing Agent can figure out how to dismiss that pop-up. And even better, if a failure happens a lot, then Healing Agent will actually recommend using autopilot that you change the actual definition of the agent so that it just doesn't have to heal it anymore. It just works by default.
Yeah, and you can open it directly into UiPath Studio, the recommendation. You click apply, and it can go directly. You can directly apply into the code. So I think this is going to reduce a lot maintenance costs of our agents. And we know it's a big part of the total cost of ownership. And we as a company are or always going after reducing the total cost of ownership. This is how we won many deals in the automation space, because we are providing the lowest total cost of ownership, and this is one of the features that help us reduce it even further.
Wow, that's awesome.
Very cool. Okay, so let's summarize, because there was a lot of innovation that we just saw. We saw state-of-the-art models coming to UiPath, including reasoning models. We saw this amazing concept of simulations. We're very excited about it, including generating these evaluations using models. And we saw UI agents, which is computer use, et cetera. And finally, we saw the healing agent, which makes our robots a lot more reliable. So stay tuned, folks. A lot more coming very, very soon. OK, Farhan, what else do you have?
Well, we talked a lot about agent capabilities, but I want to show you what's the rest of Maestro. So earlier, you saw me pull up the screen. This is how we actually designed the Maestro flow. But we can also implement this flow into a runnable flow. Let me show you what that looks like. Pretend I'm an process manager, and I'm managing the loan process. I'm no longer the individual loan approver, but someone that has to manage a whole bunch of loan approvers. And I can go into Maestro and see this process being run through. I can see how many total instances are being run through, how many are running right now, how many failed, how many completed, how many canceled. I can see every single instance of this process, each distinct instance, and click into each of them. Let me click into one of them right now. In this instance of this flow, the state of the flow instance is paused. We are able to pause instances now using Maestro. I'll talk about it in a second. But what's important here is I paused it right after this lane chain agent step. This lane chain agent was developed to go get a series of eligibility checks against state requirements. As I mentioned earlier, that's very flexible. I can't really code that in a low-code way. That's why we need a professional developer like Taki to build a lane chain agent in order for us to use it here. But what I want to show you is in the execution logs, we actually see the execution of every single step, as Daniel was mentioning earlier, of this process being run, including the lane chain logs. These are real lane chain logs. This is not a fake demo. This is a real lane chain agent that ran. As we also, in this pause state, I can go modify things if I need to. So for instance, these variables in response out from lane chain, and if I needed to modify it for whatever reason to continue the process, I can go here, change the variable, and let it resume without ever having to restart the process. Let's go ahead and try to resume this process, and we'll talk a little bit about pausing. What UiPath has done with Maestro is every single instance of this workflow is its own independent execution of the workflow. We're no longer using like queues and all that kind of stuff in order to try to simulate this. This is real instance management. And as you see, as we were watching the workflow run, you get to see the arrow where, oh, wow, that was really cool. So you see what happened there, guys? Huh? So we are able to parallel actions in Maestro and kick off all three of these actions at the same time. And that really brings a lot of flexibility in building these automations because you don't have to wait for everything to work sequentially. I'm going to let this agent run for a little while because it's going to the next agent we have here to verify customer and property and talk about a few other things that we have in Maestro. But if I wanted to, I could pause this workflow right now and resume it whatever I wanted to. The next thing I want to show you is what happens when something fails. If a step fails in here. With traditional automation, if a step failed, I would have to start over from the very beginning. That was a big pain for me as a developer. But when using Maestro, I can not only see why it failed here in the incident, but I can edit things if necessary. The cool things I want to show you about this, though, is what can I do from here? Well, the first thing I can do is retry. And when I click retry, it will allow me to retry this instance this step exactly where it is. I don't have to start the new flow all over again, right? But there's more cool things. Let's talk about migrate for a second. One of the most common things that you might need to do when a flow is broken is update it. I can update this flow, or I can, well, actually, one of the more common things I do is I push an update that actually breaks, so I need to roll back. Now that this flow is running, I can select a version of this workflow to migrate to and change the actual workflow behind the scenes while the instance is running without restarting the instance. How cool is that, huh?
It's amazing.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the next capability here, move. This one's my favorite. So when the workflow is frozen here, and I just needed to move it along, I'm able to click move, and I'm able to select anywhere in this workflow and have the process resume. This is useful for me if I need to skip to a future part of the process. Maybe this step doesn't really matter and is stuck there for no reason. Let me continue. This is also useful for me if I need to return to an earlier state in the workflow, in the instance, in order to just rerun parts of it without rerunning the whole thing. That's my favorite feature, huh? These features are really cool, aren't they? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let me show you one more thing about how we can do instance management in Maestro. This instance is stuck right here at the human eligibility decision. And the human eligibility decision is that view screen that I showed you earlier. What happens if the person that's sitting there is out of office and is on vacation? What do I do now? Do I have to wait for them to come back? As this instance is sitting there, I'm able to see, I was able to click on it, see this is an action center task. I can click open task, get straight to here, and reassign or unassign this to someone else. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not all. This is just from the instance management perspective of this workflow. Imagine the insights I get as a process manager. Going back to this screen where I saw every single instance being run on this workflow, let's take a look at what happens when I go into the monitoring tab. On the monitoring tab, not only do I see the workflow, but I can also see the completed instances, how many instances there were. I can see the top 10 faulted elements. This is where the actual workflow broke. I can see where the instances are longest duration. I can figure out who's been sitting or on vacation or slacking off. I can see the top 10. I can see the top 10 elements by longest average duration. What does that mean for me? That means more opportunity to automate. If something is sitting at a spot for a long, long time, great opportunity to automate. I have all of these insights. But if I also just want to visually understand where my bottlenecks are, I can turn on heat map and see exactly where in this process my bottlenecks are. How cool is that, guys?
That's amazing. Yeah.
All right, and to wrap this demonstration of all the Maestro's new capabilities, let me give you one more scenario. I'm the process manager. All of these things are great. I need my developer to change something because this step is taking too long. I can ask my developer to go back and change something, and my developer can go back and go into Autopilot, and using Autopilot, ask it to add a human approval after tailing the applicant response. As I'm running this, we've brought Autopilot across our whole platform in every design interface that we needed, in every interface. We even have it as a chat interface in our assistant. These are the ways that we've actually made Autopilot more flexible across our whole platform. Look at this. It says, I've added a human approval step. And whoa, that looked very complicated, right? What it actually did was it gave me a side-by-side compare of the workflow prior and the workflow now, after the add. And you see that it suggested it add the human step at the right spot. Not only at the right spot, you see that little human icon? It registered this as a human process, not just an empty box. It's a human process that allows me to directly connect this to another approval app if I wanted to create one. All this is possible with the launches that we have today.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. OK, so thank you, Farron. Let's summarize the key takeaways, because there was a lot that you were excited about, as we can see. I loved how you paused, retried, and migrated these live instances of processes. I can see how that's super, super powerful. I also love the end-to-end process visibility and insights. That heat map, man, was cool. And then you have this natural language development and improvement of processes using autopilots. That was amazing. So I think this is going to be great for real business process owners to make a real impact on their business. And that, I think, wraps up the demos. So you want to close us out, Daniel? What do you say?
I'm very impressed, guys. Seriously. And we built this in less than a year.
Yeah.
I want to thank all our teams who are putting a lot of effort. It's been a lot of all-nighters. But we are very excited. We really feel that we are at the beginning of our Act 2. Act 1 was about robots emulating people on the rote, repetitive tasks. Act 2, it's about bringing agents emulating cognitive tasks. Together, it's the dream that I had since the beginning. Just put the people in the conductor seat, become maestros, and let the machines operate the process. Thank you all, guys.
Thank you. So I think, yeah. So with that, I think we open for Q&A. I'd like to invite the viewers watching the live stream to please submit questions via the link provided. And I think there's already some questions that have come in, so we can start with some of those. OK, so I think this is maybe a good one, Daniel, for you to reiterate. You commented on it a little bit. But Shankar is asking that agentic AI is the talk of the year by all the leading AI players, including some of the big names. And some of the new AI folks think that they can replace RPA with AI agents. So how does UiPath plan to stand out in this place? That's what Shankar is asking.
I think based on everything that we know, LLMs are not actually great to follow rule-based, very detailed instructions. On the contrary, LLMs are great to find patterns in data, make recommendations. We believe that actually the blueprint of running agentic AI at scale is this separation of responsibilities. Having robots doing the repetitive task in a very reliable manner, agents will hold tools to ground their decisions in enterprise data. These tools can get exactly the data they are needed. The tools are also very reliable. Scripted tools can be robots, can be APIs, can be Python scripts, whatever. But in the end, the humans will be in the center and they will make decisions. To me, it's kind of a no-brainer that this is the way we have to deliver agentic. And it resonates very well with our customers. Remember, trust is the most important aspect they go after.
Yep. And I think here's another good one. So Colin is asking that he's pleased to hear about the working relationship with Microsoft, but he's also asking how he can create an agent that will analyze data held in other commercial systems, such as Salesforce and SAP. So how do you think about interoperability with other systems?
That's a great question, and this is one of the power of our platform. We always consider ourselves to be the Switzerland of platforms. And many agents will actually require data from multiple platforms in order to make good recommendations. And this is why we shine here. We can provide the tools to integrate with many different platforms, starting with legacy mainframe to the most modern platform. So with UiPath, you are completely covered in terms of giving agent the arms to extract data, but also in a very secure manner. You don't have to grant an agent the key access to one of the enterprise systems, because it's kind of dangerous what an agent can do with an access key. So you can grant access to one particular tool, and that tool in itself has access to the enterprise system, and the tool will return only the specific data needed by agent. I think this is a very powerful combination that increases the trust of our enterprise customers in agents and in our platform.
Yeah, that's really good.
And when I was going through the tools earlier, these tools really could be anything. They could be connections to other systems. They could be robots that do some of these automations. They could even be other agents.
Very cool. So James is asking, when might one need to customize agents for more complex tasks? Specifically, I think this is a question around the coded agents announcement that we just did. And what are the limitations of UiPath's low-code environment versus full-code agents? So let me take a stab at this one, guys. So the way we think about pro-code agents versus low-code agents is that we have the best of both worlds. So you should use the low-code agents when you're doing something simple and you're a business owner, perhaps, and you know exactly what the agent needs to do. You saw that you can do evals using low-code, et cetera, et cetera. But sometimes there are these new so-called cognitive architectures. I understand that's a buzzword, but for example, a new paper comes out around corrective RAG or self-reflection or something like that, a capability that we don't yet support in our low-code agents. So you can use the coded agents almost as a release valve. And these new advanced capabilities that are coming out, frankly, every week, you can deploy them immediately as soon as they come out as a coded agent. And we are constantly monitoring those capabilities. And as we see more and more of our customers use a particular pattern, we will add that capability to our low-code agents as well.
I think important to notice our testing and evaluation sets will apply to coded agents
Yes,
as well.
absolutely. That's a very important distinction. You can code your agent in Procode using Python, and then actually do the evaluations and the simulations that are coming soon, and it's going to be a very, very powerful combination. Fantastic.
As I've been reflecting on this question, I think like as a developer, how would I know when to use a low-code agent versus a pro-code agent? I think my simple rule of thumb right now is if I can teach a human to do this over the course of 1 or 2 days, it's probably a low-code agent. If it takes longer and a lot of documentation to teach them how to do that, it's probably a pro-code agent.
Yeah, depends on the human. Anyway, so I think there's a question from both Rob and Melinda. I think it's a pretty similar question. It's around scalability and complexity of AI agents. So they're asking, are there any limits to how complex a fleet of agents that we can recommend? I think maybe, Daniel, this is a question about controlled agency that maybe you want to take a stab at.
I think the architecture that we are proposing reduce any limitations of the fleet of agents that you can apply to a single process. In the sense that having this workflow, orchestration workflow on the top with fixed path, that basically let people reason and how agents connect to agents to people, let really us connect any arbitrary number of agents in the context of a process. I think it's gonna be essential in order to think like large blueprints of large deployments.
Yeah, I think it's good because you can almost control the inputs and outputs to these agents. You can put constraints around them. You can put deterministic guardrails around them and say that if the agent outputs something which does not fit this particular parameter, then escalate to a human, etc.
I think based on discussions with many customers, even if it's possible today to have one single agent that incorporates everything inside it in a very dynamic manner, I don't think they are ready to accept it.
Yeah.
I think customers want to see these fixed paths. And my theory is that for a long time, AI and people will have to work together and understand a set of artifacts. This concept of workflow orchestration, it's an artifact that both AI and agents, AI and people can understand. So look, we have used AI to modify this process itself. So even if with the evolution of AI, we will use more and more AI to create the process, to create the orchestration out of the box. But it's still very valuable for people because I look at it and I understand.
Yep. It's really great for interpretability as well of these cognitive architectures. That's wonderful. Okay, so there's a question on, thank you, Sebastian and Borak. How do you suggest doing end-to-end testing with, excuse me, Agentic AI and Maestro? So maybe you can talk about your experience, Farhan, about how do we test these workflows, maybe talk about simulations, et cetera?
Yeah. I mean, like, I would test the individual components first, and we have a pretty extensive automation test suite for our regular automations. For the agents, I've shown you the evaluation capabilities, of course. And as you test each of these individual boxes and make sure the boxes are reliable, then of course you can run the Maestro flows themselves, right? And the Maestro flows themselves has full transparency of exactly what it's doing. It's really just an orchestration engine. So that's how I would actually test. I would actually test the individual components first.
Yeah, like unit testing of individual components. A lot of these software engineering concepts continue to apply here in the world of agents as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So now Greg is asking, in RPA, UiPath proved that automations really improve employee engagement and excitement versus fully replacing jobs. So this is the whole like job replacement question. So Greg is asking, Daniel, maybe for you, what are your thoughts on the impact of agents and Act 2 on workers? Should employees be worried or excited about working with agents?
Yes, I think in reality, we all should be both excited and a bit worried. Because the change is inevitable, right? It's the speed of change that I think is gonna show how fast we have to adapt. But I think every employee will have to adapt to work with agents. maybe not necessarily to create agents, but to understand how to interact with agents, how to interact with robots, how to be in the conductor seat, how to become a maestro.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we will be left behind. It's like you are used to type on a mechanical typewriter and computers are coming and you don't want to use computers. You will be inevitably left behind. This technology, it's here to stay, and it's gonna create an enormous shift in how the clerical work is delivered.
Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that we showed today, UI agents, autopilot, et cetera, actually makes it very easy to get started. This is not a very high barrier to entry because you essentially prompt these agents in natural language. So
I think that's what I like about it, because when I was automating tasks that I didn't enjoy doing, right? Now, in this world of AI, I'm still automating and building agents, but there's parts of it that I don't enjoy doing. I don't enjoy creating evaluation sets. I don't enjoy, individually creating each of these scenarios. And some of the capabilities you showed me today saves me time there. And this allows me to at least focus on what I enjoy doing.
Awesome. Okay, so Daniel, another question for you. It's about partners. So Dennis is asking, how do you think about the role of partners in monetizing autonomous agents? And historically, what role have you seen for partners in driving adoption and usage across verticals?
Well, in a way, we have been always an indirect type of company, in the sense that we were selling a lot through partners, and our partners were essential for the implementation. We've never been big into implementing our own stuff, and I always believe that if you want to scale an enterprise software company, you have to work through the partners. And this is why we've believed this type of technology creates a new set of excitements among our partners. Because it's, in a way, every service provider that is in the business to provide end-to-end automation, to provide digital transformation, is excited by the capabilities of Maestro. I think it's the first time when we have an orchestration engine, a powerful orchestration engine, but completely integrated with all the other tools required to do real transformation. We have apps to provide the interface to human users. We have API workflows now that run extremely efficient, that don't require a robot. We have our traditional UI automation that can be a savior when you deal with many legacy systems or complicated systems. We have document understanding that now is capable to do everything from simpler forms to very long, complex, unstructured documents. It's everything into one platform. We have all the tooling that are required right now to fully automate the process. It's unique, and I think we are the only company that have it completely integrated into one umbrella.
Batteries included, as I say. Okay, so Nitin is asking, actually a great question, what competencies are needed for a new customer to exploit UiPath? And will it soon be feasible for a typical user to create their own agents to automate their work? So let me take a stab at this. Nitin, you can go to uipath.com right now and download our community release or a trial, and you can get started. And all these features that we showed are going to be rolling out for general availability through this current month of May. And you can get started now. You need very few advanced capabilities. If you're a LangChain developer using something like Cursor, you can start deploying coded agents if you'd like, as I just showed you. Or you can use the low-code agent builder that Farhan showed you with the autopilot, which is extremely easy to use. So I encourage you to try this. And we're also releasing some videos on YouTube today that you can follow along if you're interested, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
And what I showed you earlier around that autopilot experience, that happened in a chat pane. So just chat with it. Ask it to do things for you. See what happens, experiment.
Okay, so Razvan is asking, with so much worry about agent accuracy, how do we get to a point where agentic automation completely mitigates risk? It's like completely mitigates risk, okay? What can we expect from controlled agency? How are rules and guardrails defined? So let me take a stab at it, but I think maybe, Farhan, this is one for you to double click on. See, I think there's risks even with people doing tasks. Like people make mistakes as well. So I think what I'm super excited about is agents working in collaboration with people. So it's almost like a two eyes protocol. Like a lot of the agents that you saw Farron demo today were doing work for a human to do final approval on, right? So that I think in of itself reduces errors because the human is essentially acting as an approver, as a second pair of eyes to check the work that the agent has done. And then, of course, there's evaluations that you can do. You can do a lot of simulated evals soon, as I showed you, et cetera. So I think this combination of agents and people and robots working together has the potential of being much more accurate and much less risk than even just people by themselves.
And let me add to this. So, yesterday, in a discussion with one of our federal agency customers, so we were talking about what kind of processes are best subject to adopting AI. And they brought a very interesting one that was fully manual. And they said the error rate is 23%. Almost 1 in 4 processes have to be redone. Wow. But error rate of people comes either because of complexity or because it's boring for people to do the same repetitive things. I am sure, and we will do a pilot to see. I'm sure that bringing agents, we can actually go to 95% correct rate in a process. And people, instead of just doing, and even more, because imagine, people instead of doing this repetitive, boring, that eventually will turn your attention from the process, will do only really the exceptions and will just evaluate agents and let the robots do the rest. I think it's the perfect example to show that Agentic, it's powerful and actually will reduce the errors if you have only humans in a process.
And to wrap, I think it's a combination of two things, really. It's picking the right tool for the right job. When you saw that process broken down earlier, some of those boxes became robots. You need determinism. Some of those boxes became agents where you wanted that pocket of agency for a little bit of nudge. And some boxes were left as humans still, right? And we didn't double click on this, but in the Maestro flow itself, every single agent also came with a human escalation step. Because what we believe is in the current state of things, customers won't fully trust AI yet. This market's not there yet. So everything might need to be validated. So we made that possible so that every single agent step can still be validated if that is your wish.
Good. And I think, Daniel, this last question is for you. Sorry, folks, there's so many great questions, but we're at time. So, Daniel, this will speak to your heart. Are robots dead? Like, do non-agentic automations still play a role in this world of agents? Do you think organizations will phase them out?
No, on the contrary. I think the robots will get a new life. And let me explain my rationale. If you look at the context of the tasks that a person is doing every day, there aren't so many tasks that are fully repetitive, so you can fully define in rules. Maybe you can have a task that is, I don't know, you spend 5 minutes on a task, and 80% of this you need to do some research, and you need to make some decisions, and couple of minutes you do just repetitive. It was not economically feasible to bring only RPA. Split completely the task into humans do only cognitive and the repetitive will go. It was difficult and it was not really, there is not an economical reason. Now, as we can bring agents and robots together in the same task and we can reduce maybe the human input to 1 minute, it's becoming suddenly, economically feasible and you can make a business case about Absolutely. It. So I think that will drive more robotic and more agentic, And again, it's being in the same platform. I think it's even more sense when you have a task and you have to split it into rule-based and cognitive, it makes 100% more sense to be in the same platform.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you all. That's our time. Remember, this is all available in May, so we encourage you all to go try it. Let's leave you now with some comments from some of our customers who are already using agentic automation. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
This gap between hey, we really want to invest in AI. We want to make this most effective for our customers. How do we then apply it to the best and the right use cases? Agentic AI, specifically within the UiPath platform, I think will do that really effectively because we're building on the foundation that we already have. This isn't a deviation, it's just, as we said, it's phase 2. It's the next stage.
We have automations that do A through C, and then F through H, and then S to Y, that really are siloed, if you think about it. They do what they do well, but they don't span the process from one end to the other. And this new agentic orchestration view is a way to have now an orchestrator across all of those processes. I think it's the next logical step.
With agentic automation, it allows us to make more context-aware decisions and be more adaptive to the changing business needs. We have a ton of automation already out there. And by putting an agentic tool in our call centers, it connects the dots between them, and it lessens the burden on our human agents. They can just use natural language to put in their requests, and the agentic tool would, at that point, pull in the necessary automations and execute them on their behalf. And I think as a result, that helps us scale faster, and it also creates a more seamless and much more user-friendly experience for our customers.
I could stare a bit into the future and see that, provider systems, healthcare provider systems, and the healthcare payer systems will talk through agents. This future is going to be like agents talking to agents. And I think UiPath has done a great job already in pioneering agentic automation, and we are very excited.